Hi again, Stan here. Welcome to Chapter 6 of the Sussex Coast Road Travelogue. Between Seaford and Rottingdean, we find white cliffs, flint beaches, an abandoned village, World War II guns, seaside towns, a huge swimming pool, an Art Deco Butlins hotel, and a poet's corner. Come on along and enjoy the ride. Seaford is a coastal town with a long and interesting history. On Seaford Head, the chalk cliff beside the town, is the remains of an Iron Age hill fort. A Roman burial ground and ancient coins have been found here too. It is now the home of a challenging golf course. Seaford probably got its name from the Saxons, referring to a ford crossing the River Ouse, which at that time flowed through the town. The river formed a natural harbor under Seaford Head. Oddly, it was never mentioned in the Domesday Book. During the Middle Ages, Seaford came into its own. In 1298, it became a sank port, which meant it supplied ships and mariners to the crown in exchange for benefits. The town prospered with fishing, boat building, and trade with the continent. By the end of the 14th century, plague and French raids had put paid to the prosperity. By the 16th century, the winter storms and the shifting shingle beach had blocked most of the river, and a new exit was cut by storm and by man at Newhaven, 4 miles to the west. In the early 19th century, a Martello Tower was built near the sea to protect the coast from a Napoleonic invasion. It currently is doing duty as the town museum. In the late 1800s, entrepreneurs decided to compete with Brighton and Eastbourne to make Seaford a seaside resort. They built a seawall and raised the roads. Some terraced houses and hotels were added, but storms and flooding discouraged much further development. Because of the benefits of the sea air, convalescence homes and small private boarding schools became popular. World War I and II saw much military activity as a seaplane base, a training center, and barracks. Thousands of Canadian soldiers were stationed around here, protecting the coast from a German invasion, which never came. Now, this pleasant seaside resort has become a dormitory town for Eastbourne, Brighton, and even London. Enjoy a walk along the esplanade to the Museum of Splash Point below Seaford Head. On a stormy day, we can hear the shingle beach rattling in the huge breakers. Driving out of Seaford toward Newhaven along the A259 again, keep an eye out for Mill Drove on the seaward side. Driving down this road gets us to Tide Mills, an abandoned village that has an interesting history. Originally built in the late 1700s to grind grain, it was upgraded over the next few decades, and by 1850, over 50 men worked there with their families living in company-built cottages. The railway made shipping the flour to Newhaven and then by sea to London a prosperous activity. The mill closed in 1883, and health and safety closed the village in 1939, when the last residents were forcibly removed. It was used in World War II for training in street fighting. Some ruins of the village and mill still remain. The A259 swings inland a bit to avoid the harbor at Newhaven. Like Seaford at the other end of Seaford Bay, there was a Bronze Age hill fort overlooking the town. When the storms of the 16th century finally moved the shingle enough to close the harbor at Seaford, the new channel was dug at the Saxon village of Beeching and became the New Haven. A breakwater was built here to prevent the shingle from shifting again to close up this harbor. In the 1850s, a fort was built for its protection. With the arrival of the railway, cross-channel ferries became active and still continue with 2 sailings a day to France. The town and port were very busy during World War I and II. The fort had anti-aircraft guns installed because of the frequent German bombing. As in Seaford, thousands of Canadian soldiers were stationed here to protect the south coast. There's a monument here for those soldiers who died in August 1942 during the disastrous raid on the French port of Dieppe, which left from Newhaven. Historic characters passing through this area include Louis Philippe I, the exiled King of France, who arrived in disguise in 1848, and murder suspect Lord Lucan, believed to have slipped onto a ferry in 1974. The fort and museum are worth a look, and if it is a warm, sunny day, take a dip in the sea at Newhaven Beach. It's a nice break. Now, back to the A259, and we head for the next hill. The town of Peacehaven did not exist before World War I. In 1916, entrepreneur Charles Neville from London bought a large area of farmland above the cliffs 2 miles west of Newhaven and planned to develop the land and sell the individual lots. The original name of the town was New Anzac-on-Sea. After the disastrous campaign at Gallipoli, where the Australians and New Zealanders suffered huge casualties, the name was quickly changed to Peacehaven. The plots were inexpensive and originally had been planned for returning servicemen and their families. Because of the low prices, nearly everyone could now afford a place by the sea. The first houses were built with any available material that could be found, including old railway coaches. With the installation of water and power in the 1920s, more permanent homes started to be built. The streets, which are all called avenues, were built on a grid pattern running straight down to the sea, with only the A259 and another road bisected them. There is no beach along this cliff. There are stairs down and a lovely walk by the sea. There's also cliff-top walk along to a paved promenade, which will take us by another Peacehaven claim to fame. The town is on the zero meridian and has the monument to prove it. We have just passed from the east to the west, globally speaking. A couple of miles along the A259 gets us to the town of Saltdean. Dean is Saxon for dip or valley. This upmarket suburb is mostly part of the city of Brighton and Hove, although it's 5 miles away. From the shingle beach below the village, the Undercliff Walk goes all the way to the Palace Pier in Brighton. Like Peacehaven, Saltdean was an invention of the entrepreneur Charles Neville, who in the 1920s bought up some more farmland and developed it into lots. Unlike the grid in Peacehaven, the streets have been built around the central oval of Saltdean Park. It quickly became a seaside destination for the discerning vacationer in the interwar years. The Saltdean Lido is a Grade II listed building constructed in 1937-38 in the Art Deco style of the times. It was built to help encourage the belief that sea air and exercise promoted health and energy. The Lido was and is now considered one of the best outdoor pools in the UK. Unfortunately, a couple of years after construction, World War II forced it to close as it was too dangerous with the Battle of Britain going on right overhead. The bathers were once strafed by a German fighter. Well, thank goodness he missed everyone. The National Fire Service used it for training until the end of the war. For years afterward, the Lido was left to rot. Finally, in 1964, the city of Brighton refurbished and reopened it. They also added a library and a community center. For the next 30 years, it was enjoyed by locals and tourists, bringing back some of the seaside resort atmosphere of the 30s. By the end of the 90s, it was becoming too expensive to maintain, and in a proposal in 2010 was to fill in the pool and build apartments. A local group, Save Saltdean Lido campaign, raised awareness and funds and had it reopened in all its original glory in 2017. Now we can all enjoy a swim and some history. Built at the same time, the Grand Ocean Hotel quickly became the place to be seen by the royals, the rich, and the famous. Opened in 1938, the now Grade II listed building was a streamlined modern style. Having all the modern facilities, the guests would never have to leave to enjoy their holiday. As with the Lido, World War II quickly forced it to close, and it too was used by the firefighters as a training facility. Worse for wear, Billy Butlin bought it in 1953 and turned it into an upscale holiday camp hotel. After 50 years of use, the hotel needed a major upgrade. and in 2010 it was converted to luxury apartments. The building again has some of its 1930s Art Deco look. Rottingdean, unlike its eastern neighbours, has been a village for several thousand years. Turning right off the A259 up the High Street takes us through a traditional English village. The little shops are here beside old pubs and the duck pond in the village green. Like many of the old villages along the coast, it was very involved in smuggling. Both ways, wines and spirits from France, and down sheep wool back again. The village became popular with the arts set, who wanted to get out of London and could not tolerate the excesses of Brighton. Near the centre of the village is a public park named after one of Rottingdean's most famous residents, Rudyard Kipling. Kipling Gardens used to be the grounds for the Elms, the house he lived and wrote in. It was abandoned and overgrown until the local Preservation Society brought it back to its former glory as a formal English garden. A great place to stop and enjoy lunch, and the flowers at one of the benches. This was a bit of a ride from Seaford to Rottingdean. I hope you have enjoyed it. For Chapter 7, we go back to the A259 and head for the Sussex Coast's most famous city, Brighton. Technically, it's now Brighton and Hove, actually. As always, please press the like button. Share this with your friends. To be notified when the next chapter is being published, press the subscribe button. If you're interested in the book this is based on, follow the link in the description below. Join me next time, and we can take a closer look at Brighton. This is Stan saying bye for now.